It's the Kim Monson Show, analyzing the most important stories.
And when government gets bigger, the individual gets smaller.
The latest in politics and world affairs.
For thee, but not for me. And I agree that we got to change that.
Today's current opinions and ideas.
If, in fact, you are working for the man, it's a new form of slavery.
Is it freedom or is it force? Let's have a conversation.
Indeed, let's have a conversation. Welcome to the Kim Monson Show. Thank you so much for joining us. You're each treasured, you're valued, you have purpose. Today, strive for excellence. Take care of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your body. My friends, we were made for this time. Thank you to the team. That's producer Joe, producer Luke, producer Rachel, and Nicole, Zach, Echo, Charlie, all the people here at Crawford Broadcasting. Happy Wednesday, producer Joe.
Happy Wednesday, Kim.
As I'm saying that, I'm like, is it really Wednesday? It is. Time is just flying by. Big show planned for you again today, so stay tuned. Thank you to the Harris family for their gold sponsorship of the show, and thank you to the National Shooting Sports Foundation for their gold sponsorship of the show as well. And the National Shooting Sports Foundation, there's no one more than them that promotes real firearm safety than the industry itself. And they are the national leader in defending the right to keep and bear arms, because if you can't legally produce, ship, and buy a firearm, you can't bear a firearm. So again, thank you to the National Shooting Sports Foundation for their gold sponsorship of the show as well. Let's see. Let's get over here. Let's just, check out the website. That is kimmonson.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. And then I would recommend that you go to the Colorado Union of Taxpayers website, and that's coloradotaxpayer.org, and sign up and join us. It's $25, so it's super affordable. But it has been a volunteer group that since 1976 has been watching legislation and has saved billions of dollars for taxpayers. And, of course, with the agenda here, there's lots to work on, lots to save. But I want to say thank you to my fellow board members. And that's Steve Dorman, Greg Goliansky, Russ Haas, Bill Hamill, Carl Honecker, Rob Knuth, John Nelson, Joseph O'Laughlin, Wendy Warner, and Marty Nielsen. And yesterday we did publish our ratings report on the 14 bills from the special session. And the special session was supposed to give Coloradans, or that's what they said, they purported that it would give Coloradans some real relief from these massive property tax increases. That did not occur, but a whole bunch of other stuff did occur. Redistribution, picking winners and losers, discrimination, all kinds of things like that. And so if you want to be in the know, join us, and you will get our weekly emails that we create with the ratings report during the legislative session and support the important work that we're doing. And so, again, that is coloradotaxpayer.org. So, and thank you again to this great team and what they do, because it is really, really important. It took a long time to get that email put together. And I tell you, Constant Contact, one of my colleagues said, Kim, the fonts are a little different on some different things, and they were. And I fought that for a little while. And then finally, I'm like, this is the best that I can do right now. And but I think it's pretty informative, so be sure and check that out. I wanted to get now to our word of the day. And somebody mentioned the word yesterday, jabber. I thought, okay, that's going to be a good word. It's an intransitive verb, and it is to talk rapidly or unintelligibly, to utter rapidly or unintelligibly, and to talk rapidly, indistinctly, gibberish, nonsense, or to chatter. And what came to mind was Vice President Kamala Harris. It seems like most of her comments, she is just jabbering, and we don't really know exactly what she's headed for regarding her messaging. So, again, the word of the day is jabber. Our quote of the day, I initially had gone to, somebody else. But as I was going through this day in history, there was an event with Thomas Aquinas. I thought, okay, we'll go to a Thomas Aquinas quote. He was born in 1225. He died in 1274. He was an Italian Dominican friar and priest, an influential philosopher and theologian, and a jurist in the tradition of scholasticism from the county of Aquino in the Kingdom of Sicily. And I think my Catholic friend said that he actually had a checkered past, but his mother prayed and prayed and prayed for him, and then he was converted. So this is what he said. He said, "Fear is such a powerful emotion for humans that when we allow it to take us over, it drives compassion right out of our hearts." And so this, again, is attributed to Thomas Aquinas. Fear is such a powerful emotion for humans that when we allow it to take us over, it drives compassion right out of our hearts. And I would say that there are those that use fear or try to use fear on all of us. They know this. And okay, let's jump into our day in history. 1196. There was a weather event. The northern Dutch coast flooded, the St. Nicholas flood. In 1240, Mongols led by Batu Khan occupy and destroy Kiev after an 8-day siege. Out of 50,000 people in the city, only 2,000 survive. So there's been stuff going on in Kiev for a long, long time, almost 1,000 years. 1273, Thomas Aquinas, thought to have heard a mystical experience in Naples, refuses to continue his work. "I cannot, because all that I've written seems like straw to me." In 1424, Don Alfonso V of Aragon grants Barcelona the right to exclude Jews. Again, every day we're seeing something about Jews being excluded or massacred, and it's still going on. 1527, Pope Clement VII escapes imprisonment in the Castle St. Angelo in Rome, fleeing to Orvieto disguised as a peddler. I think that would be quite the interesting story and the interesting night. 1534, Quito, Ecuador is founded by Spanish colonists on the ruins of an Inca city. In 1790, the U.S. Congress moves from New York City to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 1849, Harriet Tubman escapes from slavery in Maryland for the second and final time. I did not know this. 1862, U.S. President Abraham Lincoln orders hanging of 39 Santee Sioux Indians. And I'm just wondering, gosh, that's a little scary if we can have presidents order the execution of others. So I need to learn more about that. 1865, the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution is ratified, abolishing slavery, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. In 1866, the Chicago water supply tunnel, 3,227 miles into Lake Michigan, is completed. In 1876, the U.S. Electoral College cast their votes in the disputed election between Rutherford B. Hayes and Samuel J. Tilden. Two sets of conflicting results are returned to Congress the next day. More research on that. I wonder exactly what happened with the country as they were going through all of that. 1877, Thomas Edison enters the offices of Scientific American and turns the crank on his cylinder phonograph, astonishing those present with the recording, "Good morning, how do you do? How do you like the phonograph?" And that was in 1877. 1877, the Washington Post publishes its first edition. 1884, the aluminum capstone is set atop the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., making it the tallest human-built structure in the world, overtaking the cathedral in Cologne. 1904, Teddy Roosevelt confirms the Monroe Doctrine. And so I looked up this. Of course, this is, I think, Wikipedia. The Monroe Doctrine is a United States foreign policy position that opposes European colonialism in the Western Hemisphere. It holds that any intervention in the political affairs of the Americas by foreign powers is a potentially hostile act against the United States. The doctrine was central to America's grand strategy in the 20th century. I wonder how what China is doing in South America, what China is doing here in the United States, it seems that is totally antithetical and opposite to the Monroe Doctrine. 1917, taking advantage of the temporary relaxation of authority in Russia, Finland declares itself a republic following the Ukraine on 20 November. That's 1917. 1922, the first electric power line commercial carrier in the U.S. in Utica, New York. In 1923, the first U.S. presidential address was broadcast on radio by President Calvin Coolidge. And I find that so interesting that his was the first address, and he's known as Silent Cal. 1941, Dutch and British pilots see Japanese invasion fleet at Singapore. Of course, this is the day before Pearl Harbor was attacked. And then within 24 hours, again, I did not know this. I'm sure all you do. But within 24 hours, the Japanese had also attacked the Philippines and captured Americans and Filipinos, and there was the Bataan Death March. All that is occurring within a very short period of time. 1944, the U.S. 95th Infantry Division reaches West Wall. 1952, the Czech Republic tells the Israeli ambassador that he is persona non grata. 1960, the Major League Baseball American League grants American entertainer and businessman Gene Autry a franchise, which was the Los Angeles Angels. 1961, the 27th Heisman Trophy Award was awarded to Ernie Davis, Syracuse running back, the first black American to win. 1964, this is going to age a bunch of people. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer first airs on TV. 1973, Gerald Ford is sworn in as the first unelected vice president, succeeding Spiro Agnew, who resigned over corruption allegations. 1992, 300,000 Hindus destroy a mosque in Babri, India. 4 people die. I'm like, wow, what does that look like? 1995, Michael Jackson collapses while rehearsing for an HBO special. 1998, this was the starting of the decline of Venezuela. Hugo Chavez is elected president of Venezuela. 2017, U.S. President Donald Trump officially recognizes Jerusalem as Israel's capital and announces plans to move the U.S. embassy there. And that was quite the big deal. We have all of this information and all that we do. It comes to you because of great sponsors. One of those is Hooters Restaurants. And Hooters has 5 locations: Loveland, Aurora, Lone Tree, Westminster, and Colorado Springs. They have lunch specials Monday through Friday. Great fish and chips. Love those. And great specials on Wednesday. You buy 20 wings, you get an additional 10 for free. So that's today. That's for to go or to dine in. And how I got to know them is a very important story about freedom and free markets and capitalism. And PBI is wanting to exert power. And you can find that at my website, kimmonson.com. Go to the sponsors tab and click on the Hooters tab, and you will get the information there. Another sponsor of the show who I dearly value is and strives for excellence is the Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance Team. And they want you to feel safe and well served and to understand your insurance coverage and know that their office will respond to your call or text 24 hours a day. So for that 24-hour peace of mind, call Roger Mangan at 303-795-8855. Like a good neighbor, Roger Mangan's team is there.
Most of us have been there. That surprise crunch when you backed into a car in a parking lot or someone rear-ended you at a stoplight. First thing you do is stop and breathe. Second, say a prayer of gratitude that no one was hurt. Third, look for your insurance card. And fourth, be grateful that you have your insurance with Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance Agency. You can breathe easier knowing that you can reach the Roger Mangan team 24/7 when you need them. For that Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance peace of mind, call Roger Mangan today at 303-795-8855. That's 303-795-8855.
Focused and wise marketing is essential for your success, especially during tough economic times. If you love the Kim Monson Show, strive for excellence and understand the importance of engaging in the battle of ideas that is raging in America, then talk with Kim about partnership, sponsorship opportunities. Email Kim at kimmonson.com. Kim focuses on creating relationships with individuals and businesses that are tops in their fields. So they are the trusted experts listeners turn to when looking for products or services. Kim personally endorses each of her sponsors. Again, reach out to Kim at kimmonson.com.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Want to really recommend that you check out artclubmovie.com. This is a documentary that was made by Aaron Lee and former state senator Kevin Lundberg regarding Aaron and John Lee's 12-year-old daughter was invited to art club after school. It was not art club. It was actually transgender indoctrination. And first and foremost, we need to be honest with what is going on in our country. We need to have transparency. And if we have different organizations that are not honest and are not offering transparency, then we've got a real problem. And certainly this art club is a problem. And you need to know what's going on. I know many people think, oh, I live in a more conservative area. This cannot be happening in my school. And you may ask some teachers or different parents, and they say, no, I don't see it. But the thing about predators is that they can see the more vulnerable students. And most all of our students do go through vulnerable times. And so, for example, I think that Aaron's daughter was targeted. She was new in school. She was quiet. She was introverted. And she is the vulnerable person that these predators are going to focus on. And also we're seeing that there's different surveys that are being administered in school. Opt your children out of these surveys because these are other things where predators can get information. For example, if they ask a question, does your family eat dinner together on a regular basis? That probably means the family is communicating. So the predator is probably going to move on down the line to some student that may be more, that may not be happening. So somebody that might be less confident, going through a less confident time. And we all do that. But now we've got, again, the Center for Disease and Control and Prevention is losing all credibility. This is from reported by the Western Journal. And it goes on to say the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has become the latest organization pushing the woke agenda over real science. The UK Daily Mail reported Sunday that the CDC was under fire from critics for replacing the word woman with pregnant people as part of its recommendations while it's promoting the COVID-19 and flu vaccines. In fact, the CDC has removed all gender-specific terms entirely, including she, her, women, and mother, when referring to a pregnant woman. Just have to interject here. Being a pregnant mom, there's all kinds of things. Your body's going through all physically kinds of things, emotionally, mentally, and to not honor a woman by referring to her as she, her, woman, and mother is beyond belief, particularly from a federal agency. It says, it goes on to say, flu can be wildly dangerous during pregnancy. So if you're pregnant, the CDC recommends you get a flu shot to tame symptoms if you do get sick. Studies have shown that flu shots are safe for both the pregnant person and baby. I'd like to see those studies. And then it has read more. It goes on the article here. It says the use of such language was slammed by the likes of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons and Roger Severino, the former head of the Office for Civil Rights within the Health and Human Services in the Trump administration. It says the CDC is supposed to be an apolitical bastion of science, But here they are cowering to political forces, a small minority but highly influential entities who are trying to change language, Orwellian style, to force acceptance of an absurdity, said Dr. Jane Orient, Executive Director of the APPS. And that is absolutely correct. She goes on to say that all pregnant persons are women, she continued. A trans man is a woman who is trying to alter her body to resemble a man's. She is endangering her baby's health if she is taking testosterone, and the CDC ought to be warning about that. Severino told the Daily Mail that there is no medical reason to start changing basic scientific terminology. He says it's anti-science in the extreme because where the biological reality of male and female matters most is in health sciences and in medicine, and to politicize it offends science and common sense. So that segues into the next headline. And again, I am not referring to these people as trans. I'm referring to these as men who are dressing up as women. And this is just came across the wire yesterday from State of the Union. It says a man dressing up as a woman, high school volleyball player, or a boy dressing up as a girl, high school volleyball player, gives a female competitor a concussion, ending her final season early. This happened in California. And she suffered this head injury competing against a boy that dressed up as a girl competing in girl sports. The girl's father expressed frustration and powerlessness over the incident and is now part of a group seeking change at a local level. From a distance, it seems like a boy dressed in a girl's volleyball uniform, Lewis said. You think? And goes on to say that... He said, I told my wife that this was not fair. I felt frustrated that in an indirect way, I am now supporting someone's gender confusion. To boot, they were now playing against my daughter and her teammates. Another parent turned to me and said, did you see that? She was hit by that boy. I missed the actual hit, but felt the weight of everyone staring at me, including the opposing team. She's playing for fun. This was her final year doing it. She felt robbed. I felt deflated and powerless. And says, at what point does someone's gender dysphoria cross the empathy boundary? In my case, my daughter was injured. And again, I would recommend that you check out artclubmovie.com as we are looking at these particular issues. Next thing I wanted to mention, and that is this COP28. Let's see here. This particular headline said that the COP, this is from Fox News, COP28 climate conference is not just the Super Bowl of virtue signaling, it is actually doing real damage. It says it's tempting to dismiss COP28 as the Super Bowl of virtue signaling, but that would ignore all of this damage that's being done to our country by the unrealistic and costly climate policies of the Biden White House. And we can't just blame the Biden White House. It's very important that we realize that this is actually an agenda that has taken over the Democrat Party. And so those that think, well, gosh, if we got rid of Biden, we'd get rid of all of this agenda. That's not the case. We need to make sure that we connect the dots to the Biden White House, the Biden White House, and the Democrat policies of the radical activists that have taken over the Democrat National Party, the Democrat Party here in Colorado, and then many different people that have been elected to local, county, and of course the state offices here in Colorado. It goes on to say, and so I'm going to paraphrase a little bit so that we make sure that we have to engage in this battle of language. It says the Democrats' wrong-headed leadership on phasing out fossil fuels, which currently provides nearly 80% of U.S. energy, is a highlight of the COP28, and their policies are making Americans poorer and less secure. You know, you couldn't write this. If enemies wanted to take out America and take out everyday Americans, I mean, this is the perfect plan to do that. And here we as Americans are letting this happen. And says, to go on, it says, since Joe Biden took office, electricity prices have soared 24%. During President Trump's 4 years in office, average electricity prices actually declined. The COP28, the annual climate talkathon, has had some light minutes. moments. There's 80,000 attendees who are participating. And just think about it. You take those 80,000 and then disseminate them out across the world to disseminate public policy, and with a lot of money to do that. And we are really fighting quite a battle. And that is why Walt Johnson's movie, A Climate Conversation, is so important. Because it brings in some experts, some scientists to speak some truth into this and really go through Socratic questioning on this particular agenda. So I recommend that you get over to aclimateconversation.com to watch the movie there. Again, 80,000 people. They will be disseminated out into the world with this agenda. And again, we're having big money put behind that. Bloomberg, a lot of big money is being put behind that. So anyway, to go ahead, it says some 80,000 attendees are participating, a large number of whom are traveling by emission-spewing private jets. I would say most of them. Over the weekend, some of those planes were frozen to icy runways in Munich as global warming was trumped by unseasonal cold and blizzards, which blanketed much of Europe. Moreover, the event is being held in Abu Dhabi, a major oil-producing nation, and hosted by Sultan Al Jaber, head of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. In the lead-up to the meeting, leaked briefing documents reveal Jaber was plotting to use his position as host to negotiate new oil and gas deals with foreign governments, even as a central theme of COP28 was the phase-out of fossil fuels. So here, back at the ranch in America, we've got the Biden administration and the Democrats wanting to shut down our oil and gas industry, while the Saudis want to negotiate new deals. This is so dumb. I guess that's exactly what I need to say. It says, worse, a video from 2 weeks ago surfaced on Monday in which Jaber questioned the entire premise behind ditching oil, gas, and coal. He says there is no science out there or no scenario out there that says the phase out of fossil fuel is what's going to achieve 1.5. He was also critical of the questioner, saying he had anticipated a sober and mature conversation, not an alarmist one. So that's pretty interesting what's happening over there. And, of course, we have all these pictures of John Kerry, which is unbelievable. And how did he get there? I'm sure he flew on one of his private jets. So we will continue to go through some of these headlines. In the next hour, we're going to talk with Susan Kochevar. Even though there's such headlines to be so concerned about, there's also, she has some things of real hope. And so we're going to talk about some of those things that are causing her optimism. As we're getting into the Christmas, Hanukkah season, Hanukkah's right around the corner. A great gift would be to buy a brick to honor the military service of your loved one that will be on one of the pathways of service when the U.S. Marine Memorial out at 6th and Colfax is remodeled. And it is you'll receive a beautiful certificate that you can give as a gift. And as I mentioned, my father just passed on. And I had gotten him a brick on one of the pathways, and he was absolutely thrilled with that gift. And so I'm so glad that I did that before he passed on. So you can get more information by going to usmcmemorialfoundation.org. That's usmcmemorialfoundation.org. And we're going to hear from another one of our great sponsors tomorrow, and that's Karen Levine. But she is a RE/MAX award-winning realtor.
Award-winning realtor Karen Levine has nearly 30 years of experience with RE/MAX Alliance. Karen Levine works to protect your property rights at the local, county, state, and national level. Karen Levine believes in home ownership. Working with realtor Karen Levine helps you navigate through the process of buying or selling your home. Call Karen Levine to help you buy or sell your home because she understands that it's more than just a house. Call award-winning realtor Karen Levine with RE/MAX Alliance today at 303-877-7516. That's 303-877-7516.
A recent report notes that the number of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder is consistently and dramatically increasing. This is heartbreaking. If your child or grandchild or someone you know has been diagnosed with autism or ADHD following exposure to Tylenol or acetaminophen during pregnancy, call Boson Law at 303-999-9999. Boson Law is a Colorado-based law firm who has been fighting Big Pharma for over 20 years. Call now at 303-999-9999 for a free, no-obligation review of your potential claim. Call now at 303-999-9999.
All of Kim's sponsors are an inclusive partnership with Kim and are not affiliated with or in partnership with KLZ or Crawford Broadcasting. If you would like to support the work of the Kim Monson Show and grow your business, contact Kim at her website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter, and you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Thank you to the Harris family. Greatly appreciate them for their gold sponsorship of the show. And also thank you to the National Shooting Sports Foundation for their gold sponsorship of the show as well. And the National Shooting Sports Foundation it has a government relations team that relentlessly advocates for measures on behalf of and works in defense of the firearm and ammunition industry at all levels and before all branches of government. Another sponsor of the show is Susan Kochevar. She is an entrepreneur and owner of 88 Drive-In Theatre. Susan Kochevar, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kim.
Great to have you. 88 Drive-In Theatre is closed for the season, correct?
We are, yes.
I cannot believe we're in December. As fast as time's going, you'll be open again in March or April. But Susan, you and I, we text back and forth pretty regularly. And you've said that there are some things that you're very optimistic about. And I think people could use some optimism right now. So what are some of those things?
Well, one of the things I noticed, and it did get a lot of press coverage, so people might have heard, but a fellow by the name of Javier Milei was elected president of Argentina. Now, they say he's a populist and a libertarian. He's very fiscally conservative. So the fact, and Argentina has just suffered terribly with somewhere between 140 to 180% inflation. They kind of went through exactly what we're going through now with, the Biden administration taking down our country. That happened to Argentina. Well, apparently, Argentina went to an all-paper ballot in about, I think it was 8 months, they said, got rid of their voting machines and elected Javier Milei. So he is he's a very interesting fellow and going to change their whole government. There's a video out there where he has all of the government agencies tacked up to a chalkboard, and he's going along, pulling them all off the chalkboard. Gone, gone, gone. So he's doing a lot of the things that a lot of us here in the United States would like to see done to our country. And the fact that Argentina made such a big switch, I think, gives me a lot of hope. The more countries that go toward freedom and economic freedom and political freedom, the harder it will be for the people at the World Economic Forum and those 80,000 people you were just discussing to force us into just abject poverty. So we have now Argentina that has done that. Also, Viktor Orban is now Prime Minister of Hungary, and he is another, force for good, as well as Giorgia Meloni in Italy. She's Prime Minister. And so now we have Javier Milei. All these countries are really pushing back on things that the World Economic Forum and George Soros and all these really horrible people have been working to do. So I think that's a really positive thing. We just need to get our country sorted out now, I think the world will be in a better place overall. The globalists are losing ground is really what it comes down to.
Well, I was looking at this headline. This was from Craig. And it says the Tri-State aims to close the Craig station earlier than originally expected. And this is unbelievable to me. It says in its latest filing with the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association detailed its plans to shut down all 3 units at Craig Station by September of 2028, accelerating the expected timeline for the coal-fired power plant's closure by more than a year. I think we got to do something about that. I think we need to start to call that. I mean, I can't believe that this is happening right in our backyard, Susan.
No, it's really bad. And I think it's becoming very obvious to everyday people. I think it's all, you can't propagandize your way out of inflation, high food costs, and high grocery prices. And it's affecting everything. I can't tell you how many friends I have in businesses who are working for businesses who are now very concerned about their viability going forward. Even people in real estate are concerned. You can't, with the current climate for interest rates, people aren't taking out second loans on their homes to redo them, getting loans to invest in a rental property is just sky high. So there's a lot of concern out there, and it's stunning to me that the people pushing these types of policies to destroy our country are shocked. The Biden administration is now shocked that Bidenomics is not popular and not working. Well, I don't know why you would think you could propagandize yourself out of people not being able to afford food. That's not going to work. So it's peculiar to me that they think they're going to tell everybody it's working when they can't buy food. Weird.
Okay. Well, and you alluded to this regarding Argentina. I did not realize that they'd gone to all paper ballots. And there are many of our colleagues that they say we really need to get to paper ballots, need to get rid of the machines. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That seems like, particularly here in Colorado, with the Secretary of State has done the equivalent of executive orders that basically she controls the elections. People do not realize we do not audit our elections in Colorado. There's this convoluted, I can't remember now what they call it, stress test or whatever here in Colorado that implies that we audit our elections, but we don't. And so, I think it's going to be a heavy lift to get us to a point where we have paper ballots just because of the perception of getting your ballot. And I think that's a heavy lift. What do you think? Can we do it?
That's what the other side says. It's going to be too expensive and too cumbersome, and we won't be able to count the ballots fast enough. But if you look at France, they do that, and their totals come in much faster than ours. So Argentina made the switch quickly. And if you listen to Mike Lindell, he says that, that we can do it in 8 months or less. It's really a fast switch.
No, it wouldn't take that long to
So,
count the ballots. It's just that procedure could be done within 8 months. So is what he's saying, right?
Yeah, to set the whole system up so that we can count the ballots. And the thing is that they have to be done within the precincts. And you want to break that all apart because it's a lot harder to cheat when you might be able to cheat in a few precincts, but to cheat in all of them, it's going to be a lot harder when all the ballots aren't counted in one massive place. So, I think it makes a lot of sense. And you're right, we can't audit our elections. They won't turn over voter rolls. They won't turn over past ballots. The last year that I ran for office in Colorado in House District 30, a whole truckload of ballots went missing from where they were printed to the post office. There were 3 trucks. They were all headed to the post office, and they said the post office wouldn't accept the 3rd truck, and the truck was just missing for a week. So I'd like to know what happened to those ballots during that week. Were they reprinted and altered? I mean, we don't know. That stuff should never happen, and we never did get to the bottom of it.
Well, and that is, and one has to ask why as well. And I think there was probably, there could be stuff that was happening both on the Democrat and Republican side. That's one of the things, Susan, that's been really frustrating for me over the years as I've become more involved and watched what's happening from a political standpoint in Colorado, is that we have had for many years Republican operative consultants that basically have said nothing to see here, everything's fine, not to worry. But meanwhile, we have fewer and fewer Republicans, conservatives, I would say real Coloradans that care about this, this beautiful individualistic state that we have. And instead, we have less people elected. The radicals continue to get elected. And it seems like the Republican operative consultants look the other way, and one has to ask why. And I think it's probably because of power and money. But what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a few things. I think it's probably power and money because if you keep the churn going, then you keep making a case for why you need more money to get certain people elected. The other thing that concerns me is that some of the people who get elected don't turn out to actually hold Republican values. Cole Wist comes to mind when he pushed the red flag bill. These, and you can go on and on. I think Larry Liston is another one. There's a lot of people who get elected who do not really support the Republican platform, and that's extremely concerning. That doesn't seem to happen on the Democrat side.
Oh, no. Well, I guess there is some disagreements that are happening here in the Democrat Party in Colorado, but the radical activists are really in control of what is happening in Colorado at the State House. And so they're in control of all of this public policy. And so let's just talk about Republican values, because I was in a back and forth text message with someone regarding that the job of the Republican Party is to elect Republicans. But what I've also learned is there are, like in different counties, it used to be you needed to be a Republican to get elected in Douglas County. Now the demographics are changing significantly. But I saw people with R's behind their names that were pushing radical activist World Economic Forum policies, and that's still the case in Douglas County. And so we've been in this back and forth about getting Republicans elected. And I know Reagan said, if you're with me 80% of the time, then we're friends. True, I agree with that, because people are not going to agree all the time. But when I start to look at people that are elected as Republicans and they're only with me 30% of the time or 40% of the time, then I think we need to have a conversation. So what would you say, and I'll respond, but what would you say are Republican values that we want to make sure people understand and that Republican candidates support and protect?
Well, I think overall one of the things that has typically been part of the Republican platform is limited government, low taxation, and individualism. And we're not finding that is, and support of the Constitution. So, the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, and these things are not being supported. And I would also maybe challenge Reagan a little bit and say it depends on, I might agree with somebody 80%, but if that other 20% is so radically twisted, we're going to have an issue. I see where Republican Nikki Haley now has come out and said that she thinks that parents should allow their children as young as 12 to transition. That was yesterday.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I did not see
that. Was
that.
Yesterday. It just, I don't know. The extremism has, I don't know what to say about it. But
okay.
That platform, discussing the platform more in their party would be a valuable thing.
Wow. Okay. We need to talk some more about that because this is really an attack on our children. So we're going to really take a thing. I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm talking with Susan Kochevar. She's a dear friend. She's an entrepreneur. She's the owner of 88 Drive-In Theatre. And she has, and again, things happening throughout the world. There are things to be very optimistic about, but that's why we must every day continue to push for protecting our liberties, and that's why we have these important conversations. Did want to mention the Center for American Values. Again, a great gift. I'm trying to give you some help, some gift tips, and a great gift would be their Medal of Honor quote book that they have published, which has a number of quotes from many of our Medal of Honor recipients. It's a great little book, a great little stocking stuffer, a great little conversation starter. And again, I would highly recommend that you check that out. You can find that at AmericanValueCenter.org. That is AmericanValueCenter.org. And the show comes to you because of sponsors like Lauren Levy.
If you are 62 or older, a reverse mortgage could be a great tool regarding retirement and estate planning. It is essential to understand the process. Lauren Levy with Polygon Financial Group has nearly 20 years in the mortgage industry and has the experience to answer your questions. Lauren understands that each financial transaction is personal. If you'd like to explore your options on a reverse mortgage, remodel your home, buy a rental property, or move, call Lauren Levy at 303-880-8881. Licensed in 49 states, Kim Monson highly recommends Lauren Levy for all your mortgage needs. Call Lauren at 303-880-8881.
You'd like to get in touch with one of the sponsors of the Kim Monson Show, but you can't remember their phone contact or website information. Find a full list of advertising partners on Kim's website, KimMonson.com. That's Kim, MonSon.com.
Franktown Firearms staff and customers alike are concerned with your safety and ability to shoot well, and that comes from the sense of community that they foster at their shop. The staff doesn't work on commissions from sales, so there won't be any pressure to buy what you don't need. They host events like Ladies' Night every first Friday and a Tactical Fun Night every third Friday because they value their community and they understand that selling the most expensive product doesn't help you learn to shoot. Your money goes further at Franktown because they'd rather you to be self-sufficient with what you already own and be proficient in using it. If you're looking for a range and shop that can take you to the next level in your self-defense training, learn how to shoot in realistic scenarios from instructors who have been there, done that. Then look no further than Franktown Firearms. Go to klzradio.com/Franktown. Franktown Firearms, where friends are made.
And welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MonSon.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. And you can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Susan Kochevar is on the line with me. You know her. She's an entrepreneur, owner of 88 Drive-In Theatre, and a valued sponsor of the show. Susan Kochevar, this thing with Nikki Haley, I was concerned with her as I feel that she's willing to support Ukraine's border, protecting Ukraine's border, but meanwhile, our border is just wide open. And I did find this piece, an article from the Iowa Standard. Apparently, she said this earlier in the year, that she did not think that there should be a law against parents if they want their child to undergo a sex change. You know, one of the things regarding this whole sex change thing is like who pays for it. I imagine that we probably have insurance, Medicaid, different organizations paying for that. I don't think that that's something that insurance or Medicaid should pay. And I have a feeling that if we change that, we would probably see a lot fewer sex changes on children. What do you think about that, Susan Kochevar?
I think we would. And you know, I lean really libertarian, but I don't think that children are not able to make such a life-changing decision. They can't. You know how tough it can be growing up anyway, and so when I just don't think that parents should be able to do that to their children. Children are too easily manipulated, both by the medical community and by parents, and I think that parents, to a large degree, are manipulated by the medical community. There have been quite a few families who've been told, well, if we don't transition your child, you're going to have a dead child, and that's not what happened.
So terrible.
So yeah,
and that happened to Erin Lee and her family. I mean, it's cruel. It is so cruel what they're doing, and so boy, Nikki, Whew.
Well,
okay, let's change gears. Go ahead.
Well, one more point about Nikki Haley. She's a globalist. She recently came out and said she thinks that everybody should be made to identify themselves on all social media. You can't, come up with a pseudonym. And that's, boy, talk about squelching free speech. And what about police officers who want to make posts, but they don't want to, for their own safety or the safety of their families, they don't use their real name. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why somebody, might want to make some points. Sometimes if you're a whistleblower, you might not want to use your real name. So, and that's part of the globalist agenda. If they can make everybody identify who they are on social media, then everything is completely trackable, which is what these people want. They want to control you. So I think she's part of that crowd.
Boy, and that's a lot of concern about that. So thanks for, again, I was going through headlines last night and I didn't see that, but I found this then from the Iowa Standard regarding what she had said about this. And yeah, we need to protect children because, as you said, that many times they can be influenced significantly. And boy, that's a whole nother conversation. I wanted to change to something else, though, as you and I were texting back and forth, and that is that you think that maybe Biden should not be impeached. So why are you thinking that, Susan Kochevar?
Right. I think it's a good idea to set up a committee to investigate impeachment so that all of Biden and the administration's activities can be examined and to give all of that information time to reach Americans. But if he gets impeached and can't run again, then we don't know what candidate we're going to be fighting. And I think that Biden's the easiest to defeat. So that may not, impeaching him may not be the best strategy.
That's an interesting point. Is that I think that would be difficult. Let's think about everyday Americans. They're bombarded with news all the time. And so if Biden gets to a point where he's so, wounded from a political standpoint, there is going to be, I think, also people are just tired. They're weary from all of that. And so it would be difficult to shed light on that new candidate because people don't pay attention quite like you and I do every day, Susan.
Yeah, they hear sound bites, and so paying attention is very, very important. Heck, if you just listen now, the media is so unhinged over Trump, and the things that they are saying are just insane. Oh, you'll hear Morning Mika or CNN or one of them coming out and saying Trump's telling you what he's going to do. He's going to destroy the Constitution. He's telling you he's going to be a dictator, and those are not things that Trump has remotely said.
But those are things that we are actually seeing occurring with the current administration, I would say.
Yes, it is. They always project exactly what they're going to do. You even have the governor of New York talking about setting up quarantine camps again now. So these people are frightening. But they definitely check what they're up to.
Right. But you're still optimistic. Even, here in Colorado, I feel like we're at the tip of the spear. But even so, you're still optimistic, right, Susan?
Yeah, I think so. There are things happening, and more, I talk politics with everybody, and I really am not getting any pushback or any questioning at all. People are very upset. You should just drive around, look at the signs on their cars, and see how mad they are about what's happening. We just have to, in the next 10 months or so, 11 months are going to be pretty stressful, I think. And but I just don't think that the Biden administration is going to be able to propagandize their way into another presidency unless there's some massive cheating, and I think that people are really becoming aware of that. The other issue I think that we have is all this censorship that's going around. That is something. That's why even just doing an inquiry into Biden, I think, is useful to start to disseminate that information. It takes a lot to get around all that censorship, and that censorship is very concerning because when you have censorship like that, and a big NSA like we have and huge databases that are searchable, it makes it very tough to be free. I really would like to see a bill go through Congress to start to shut some of that stuff down. It makes all of your political people vulnerable. For instance, if they're searching a database and they find something out about a political candidate or somebody in office, their family member, something that they could potentially use to blackmail the person with, that's a very bad thing. Those things need to be shut down. I think that could also be another reason why we're seeing some of our elected Republicans behave very oddly.
Interesting. Hey, Susan Kochevar, we're out of time. It's gone way too quickly. Susan Kochevar is the owner of 88 Drive-In Theatre and is an entrepreneur. Susan, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next month.
Sounds good, Kim.
And the quote for the end of the show is from Thomas Aquinas. He said, "The things that we love tell us what we are." So, my friends, today be grateful, read great books, think good thoughts, listen to beautiful music, communicate and listen well, live honestly and authentically, strive for high ideals, and like Superman, stand for truth, justice, and the American way. My friends, you are not alone. God bless you. God bless America. Stay tuned for hour number 2.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker, commentators, hosts, their guests, and callers. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Crawford Broadcasting or KLZ management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.
It's the Kim Monson Show, analyzing the most important stories.
And when government gets bigger, the individual gets smaller.
The latest in politics and world affairs.
For thee, but not for me. And I agree that we got to change that.
Today's current opinions and ideas.
If, in fact, you are working for the man, it's a new form of slavery.
Is it freedom or is it force? Let's have a conversation.
Indeed. Let's have a conversation. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Kim Monson Show. Thank you so much for joining us. You're each treasured. You're valued. You have purpose today. Strive for excellence. Take care of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your body. My friends, we were made for this moment. Thank you to the team. That's producer Joe, producer Luke, Rachel, Nicole, Zach, Echo, Charlie, all the people here at Crawford Broadcasting. Happy Wednesday, producer Joe.
Happy Wednesday, Kim.
Great show planned for you for the second hour as well. It's a Trent Loos Wednesday. Lots to talk with him about. And so we'll get into that here in just a little bit. We'll also talk with Lauren Levy here in just a few. But thank you to the Harris family for their gold sponsorship of the show. And thank you to the National Shooting Sports Foundation for their gold sponsorship of the show as well. And the National Shooting Sports Foundation is the national leader in defending the right to keep and bear arms, because if you can't legally produce, ship, and buy a firearm, you can't bear it. And the Second Amendment was put in place so that we, of course, can do sport shooting and hunt, but also it's there so that we can protect ourselves and our families against bad actors. And as we're looking at the southern border, we know that there are bad actors that are coming across the southern border. First and foremost, the federal government should not be letting that happen. And then I think we really need to be addressing this migrant crisis. And that is that I think we need to be sending people back to where their country of origin is. And because this is overrunning our country, we don't know who's coming in. And certainly there are people that are coming here for the American idea, the American dream. And we need to make sure we have legal ways for that to occur. But this thing happening down at the southern border is bringing bad actors across the border. And so that is why it is so important that we would be able to keep and bear firearms to protect ourselves and our families. So isn't it weird? It's just odd. These radical activist Democrats that have taken over the Democrat Party want to let bad actors come in across the border, tax Americans to pay for services for them, give people jobs, taking away from Americans' jobs. Let me think. We're paying for it, taking away jobs. And then the bad guys, we can't protect ourselves against it because the radical activist Democrats want to prevent law-abiding citizens from keeping and bearing firearms. It's like, what could go wrong with that? I think that's another reason why we want to know what our Constitution has to say, because the Constitution was put in place to not let any of this kind of stuff happen. And so that's why we need to know what happens with our Constitution, and we need to protect it, conserve it, preserve it, all those things. So important. Our word of the day is a word that reminded me of Kamala Harris, and that is jabber. It's to talk rapidly or unintelligibly, indistinctly, to utter gibberish or nonsense, to chatter. And just about every time, it just reminds me, I think she jabbers when she is making comments. So that was our word of the day. Your challenge is to use that in a sentence. And you could just say that a synonym for jabber or a definition of jabber could be Kamala Harris. Our quote of the day, I went to Thomas Aquinas. He was born in 1225, died in 1274. He was an Italian Dominican friar and priest, an influential philosopher and theologian, and a jurist in the tradition of scholasticism from the county of Aquino in the kingdom of Sicily. And he said this, and I think that, you look at COVID, you look at the World Economic Forum, the whole climate thing, fear. But this is what he said, and again, he lived in 1225 to 1274. He said, fear is such a powerful emotion for humans that when we allow it to take us over, it drives compassion right out of our hearts. I would also maybe add in, it says that it drives not only compassion out of our hearts, but reason out of our brains. And so, again, that was Thomas Aquinas. Headlines, we're going to be going through some headlines with Trent Loos. And one of those, I found this from the Aspen Daily Times, sustaining elk herds. I want to talk with him about this. It says, as more recreationists are drawn to Colorado public lands, wildlife officials have noted changing patterns in elk herds' health, population numbers, and habitat. It says the Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials are considering several changes aimed at managing both the elk population and complaints of hunter overcrowding. In presentations to the Garfield and Eagle County commissioners, state wildlife biologist Julie Mao says elk herds in northwestern Colorado face a host of challenges, including drought and climate change, energy development, residential development and recreation. But guess what? They're not saying anything about wolf reintroduction. So we'll talk with Trent Loos about that here in just a little bit. On the line with me, you know him. He is our expert in everything mortgage, and that is Lauren Levy with Polygon Financial Group. And the great thing about Lauren is he works with different companies, so you're not just having to work with one company. He's able to help you with all those different choices, and he can help with anything mortgages, reverse, second, first mortgages. in 49 of our 50 states. The only state is not that he doesn't work in is New York. So, Lauren Levy, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Kim.
We've been talking a lot during this inflationary time, high interest rates, high taxes regarding reverse mortgages, and it's still a pretty good opportunity for people here in Colorado because mortgage or real estate prices have pretty well maintained value there. So now may be a time to incorporate that into a financial plan strategy, correct?
Absolutely, and we're definitely seeing home values hold up here in Colorado. We haven't seen much of a pullback, just due to the lower inventory, especially now as we're in the fall and winter. Less inventory tends to come on anyhow, but we're starting to see a little bit of best of both worlds because as the data has started to come in a little bit on the negative side, which is, I know you don't like this, but that's what the Fed has been looking for. We're starting to see, I guess, bad news be some good news, and mortgage rates in general starting to pull back a little bit. They used to be, maybe a month ago, you and I were talking about mortgage rates around 8, and they've pulled back at least maybe 0.5%, almost to 0.75%, to back towards the lower 7s. So we're starting to see some good news all around.
So, and yes, you're right. I'm very frustrated with the Federal Reserve that what they're trying to do is cool down the economy, and what that happens is some people will lose their jobs, which I'm concerned about what that might do in this real estate market. What do you say to that, Lauren?
I say, unfortunately, I don't know what I say. I know what the Federal Reserve has for a mandate, and they want full employment. That's one of their mandates, obviously, but also price controls, or not price controls, but price regulation, I guess, so that we don't get inflation out of control. So it's tough. It's a tough dual mandate that they have, where in order to maintain inflation low, it's a tough balancing act. So hopefully not too many people have to lose their job. We're not hearing about mass layoffs, which is nice, while inflation has been coming down. So it seems like we'll be getting closer to what they refer to as a soft landing, and it'd be awesome if they could execute it and keep as many people employed as possible,
Okay. And I was looking in California, San Francisco in particular. I saw some headlines last night that particularly in their luxury market, that there are homes in San Francisco that are taking significant price reductions. And again, go to public policy. I mean, you hear what's happening in San Francisco with crime and homelessness. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, and high taxes, that people are going to move out of there. But again, just this is to connect that dot back to here in Colorado, real estate values have really maintained. And so if, for example, there would be more of a softness on home prices, then that would affect how much somebody could access for a reverse mortgage. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, that is correct. Anytime you have softness and values start to come down, it would affect what someone could access, not only on a reverse mortgage, but on any type of a debt consolidation type thing where they're trying to utilize the equity in their home to pay something off. One thing California has recently that we don't have here is a mansion tax. They refer to it over there, that if a house sells, I believe it starts at $5 million and above, then there's a significant tax on the seller. And so there was a rush to sell some of those higher-end properties, and now the tax is in effect. So that's affecting the higher-end homes there, and we don't have a mansion tax here. So that's a big problem for them. But you're right. Anytime there's softness and home values start to drop, it does cut into someone's ability to do a reverse. So that's why we say that now is a great time, because we are having, home values hold up for us here really well.
Well, and I think that makes a lot of sense. There's no cost to do that. If there is a appraisal that is needed for all Kim Monson Show listeners, you pay for that. I thank you. You've done that over all the years for my listeners. And so it may be a great strategy to maybe get some cash to do a variety of things. So how can people reach you? Again, it doesn't cost anything. It's complimentary. How can people reach you, Lauren Levy?
The easiest way is just give the office a call at 303-880 8881.
And that is Lauren Levy, 303-880-8881. And he can help you. Say if you're going to buy something in another state and you need a mortgage there, as long as it's not New York, he can help you in any other state. Lauren Levy, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Kim, thank you.
And again, that's Lauren Levy, 303-880-8881, All Things Mortgage. All Things Insurance, the Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance Team is who I highly endorse and recommend. And Roger's been in business for 47 years, serving his customers, providing for his family, and giving back to the community. He can help you, anyone here in Colorado and the contiguous states. That phone number is 303-795-8855, and you can get a complimentary appointment. Again, that number is 303-795-8855. Like a good neighbor, the Roger Mangan team is there.
Most of us have been there. That surprise crunch when you backed into a car in a parking lot or someone rear-ended you at a stoplight. First thing you do is stop and breathe. Second, say a prayer of gratitude that no one was hurt. Third, look for your insurance card. And fourth, be grateful that you have your insurance with Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance Agency. You can breathe easier knowing that you can reach the Roger Mangan team 24/7 when you need them. For that Roger Mangan State Farm Insurance peace of mind, call Roger Mangan today at 303-795-8855. That's 303-795-8855.
If you are 62 or older, a reverse mortgage could be a great tool regarding retirement and estate planning. It is essential to understand the process. Lauren Levy with Polygon Financial Group has nearly 20 years in the mortgage industry and has the experience to answer your questions. Lauren understands that each financial transaction is personal. If you'd like to explore your options on a reverse mortgage, remodel your home, buy a rental property, or move, call Lauren Levy at 303-880-8881. Licensed in 49 states, Kim Monson highly recommends Lauren Levy for all your mortgage needs. Call Lauren at 303-880-8881.
You'd like to get in touch with one of the sponsors of The Kim Monson Show, but you can't remember their phone contact or website information. Find a full list of advertising partners on Kim's website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim, MONSON.com.
Welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice. We search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. Text line is 720-605-0647. On the line with me is Trent Loos. It's a Trent Loos Wednesday. He is a sixth-generation farmer and rancher. Trent, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kim. It's been a week again. It comes so quickly every week. I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. And there's so many things I want to ask you about. I think the first thing I'm going to ask you about is this COP28 over in Abu Dhabi. And John Kerry, of course, flew over there, and then he's wanting to put forth policies to limit reliable, efficient, affordable, and abundant energy for everyday Americans. But what's your thoughts on this whole COP28 thing and what's happening over there in Abu Dhabi?
Well, actually, just before it happened, there was some tremendous data that came out because everybody gathers in United Arab Emirates in Dubai to talk about how we the peasants have to change our lives. We need to stop using energy. We need to stop consuming the very healthy products from animals that improve lives and improve the planet. And yet, and all of this, by the way, Kim, is in the name of to prevent climate crisis. And now all of a sudden you hear the word urgent. It's urgent that we make these changes now. Apparently, they know that some big light moment is coming that's going to shed light on what they're really up to, and that's why they want to be urgent. But the best data that I've seen so far, it clearly demonstrates that 1% of the world's population has the same emissions equal to 66% of us peasants are here trying to make a living and improve our lives. 1%. It contributes as many emissions as 66% of the world's population. That's the hypocrisy, and that's the outright evilness that's taking place in Dubai this week.
Okay, and I thank you for getting that right. It is Dubai. I said Abu Dhabi, so thank you for getting that right. Hey, so yeah, let's break that down a bit more. They're saying that 1% of the world's population is creating 66% of emissions. And, of course, they're saying emissions are bad. Actually, emissions are CO2. CO2 is plant food. So I guess if you really want to unpack that, we should say thank you to 1% of the population that is creating 66% of the plant food for the world. What do you think about that?
I agree with that sentiment because we cannot allow greenhouse gases, which are all vital for plant growth. And we need to, what is a greenhouse? Just think about the concept. Think about how we've been lied to. A greenhouse is where you protect things to promote growth. So greenhouse gases should be about protecting things and promoting growth, which is exactly what sulfur oxide, nitrous oxide, methane, and CO2 do. So, yes, to your point, we should be thanking them. Where we stop that thank you is where they tell us how they're going to control our lives and that we need to move ourselves away from energy. They're point blank saying right now, stop using energy. Well, we've created this opportunity through hard work and toil. And, a lot of weeks we talk about coal. News report this week that we are now at the equal level of the amount of coal we burned in 1903. 1903. That's all the coal that we're going to burn in 2023. 120 years later, we've regressed with an 800-year supply of coal left that we could actually burn to produce electricity. And by the way, electricity is one of the contributing factors for us to improve the earth as it is. We use electric and energy to make life better and to improve the planet. And that gets left out of the equation. It's 100% about controlling your and my life.
Well, that is ultimately what it is all about. And I mentioned this in the first hour. This was from the Craig Press. It says, in the latest filing with the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association detailed its plans to shut down all 3 units at Craig Station by September 2028, accelerating the expected timeline for the coal-fired power plant's closure by more than a year. What do we do about this, Trent Loos?
So I don't know how many people actually know how they're putting the hamper on the coal-fired industry. But I was in a coal field the other day in Beulah, North Dakota, and Basin Electric Co-op, and it's a co-op. And the co-op has a series of wind towers locally that are highly subsidized and feed into the coal-fired power plant. But when the coal-fired power plant has wind available, I use 2 different kinds of wind there. Wind, W-H-E-N, has wind, W-I-N-D, available. It uses the wind because they pay $0. They pay 0 cents per kilowatt for energy to generate electricity with wind. The government pays the wind developer 26 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you're operating the facility, you have no choice but to use the wind, which is generated. So meanwhile, there's a coal-fired or a coal field right next to there that just puts it on a truck and hauls it to the plant. The week I was there, Kim, they did not sell 1 pound of coal to this coal-fired power plant that given week because they were being given wind from electricity. What business could operate where 4 days of the week they can't sell a product because the subsidies for wind are taking over? That is 100% about crippling our energy grid and our structure and making that reliable energy no longer available. Because
there will be days that the wind is not blowing, and but if you've taken away the business, the option to have coal, because of all of these government subsidies, well, then what's going to happen? So you're talking North Dakota. North Dakota gets there's some pretty tough winters in North Dakota. And so to people, are we not connecting the dots to understand that this ultimately is going to lead to human suffering?
It is, and I want to clarify that North Dakota not only does it produce electricity through coal for North Dakota, it produces for many of the northern tier states, including Minnesota. And Minnesota is one of the contributing problems because the state of Minnesota has said, we are going, I believe it's 2030, that we are going to accept zero electricity from anybody who is not with a net zero impact. So if you're using coal or if you're using natural gas, you cannot provide electricity to citizens of the state of Minnesota. That means Minnesota is in dire straits. And when Minnesota's in dire straits, we're all in dire straits because everybody's following the same path. The key word, you mentioned it, is reliability. We have these resources and we refuse to use them.
And then let's go back to the COP28, because as I was reading the article and the headlines in the hour number one, there's 80,000 people that are there. So this is 80,000 acolytes that are there, and I did not see that there was a whole bunch of boats that were delivering people there. I think that it was actually airplanes. And so they're going to be sending out 80,000 acolytes across the world, to push this agenda. And then you've got big, wealthy Americans such as Bloomberg that's putting money behind that. That is why we have gotten to the point that we're at. I actually had a listener that reached out to me in the oil and gas business and said, they could be here in Colorado, or it could be the 80,000 nays, or it could be the Biden administration want to shut down the oil and gas industry. I mean, Biden has said that, Trent Loos.
Correct. Absolutely. And we will suffer. I mean, this is the thing that people just don't recognize. We created a system with a reliable electricity, and here, this is getting zero attention. I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I had an interview with Tim Noakes from South Africa in March of 2023, earlier this year. We had to schedule that interview around when he had electricity being delivered so that he could run his computer, and that was at 12 hours a day. So we had to hit a 12-hour window. A couple of weeks ago, I told you that a friend of mine from Brush, Robert Farnham, had just come home from South Africa, and he said that they were now down to 6 hours a day of electricity. Yesterday, a friend of mine who employs H-2A workers, temporary agricultural workers from South Africa, he called to tell me that where these guys are coming, where they come from in their home territory in South Africa, they're now getting 12 hours of electricity a week. And it all started with the same nonsense. We must fix this climate. It's not about the climate. It's about controlling your life.
Well, and that's a great opportunity for me to mention A Climate Conversation, our documentary. As we're having these conversations, it is more and more timely and more important. And people can watch it for free at aclimateconversation.com, because we are headed towards human suffering. It does not have to be that way. And so I want to continue these other conversations with Trent Loos. There's so many things I want to ask him. You know him. He is a sixth-generation farmer and rancher from Nebraska, and the American farmer has fed and the rural America has fueled everyday people's prosperity, and that is truly under attack. And again, we see this with what's happening in Dubai with the COP28. And think about it, 80,000 acolytes. This is a religion that they are pushing out, and it's not based on real science. And so we'll continue the conversation with Trent Loos here in just a moment. We get to do this because of our sponsors. One of those is Karen Levine.
Award-winning realtor Karen Levine has nearly 30 years of experience with RE/MAX Alliance. Karen Levine works to protect your property rights at the local, county, state, and national level. Karen Levine believes in home ownership. Working with realtor Karen Levine helps you navigate through the process of buying or selling your home. Call Karen Levine to help you buy or sell your home because she understands that it's more than just a house. Call award-winning realtor Karen Levine with RE/MAX Alliance today at 303-877-7516. That's 303-877-7516.
All of Kim's sponsors are an inclusive partnership with Kim and are not affiliated with or in partnership with KLZ or Crawford Broadcasting. If you would like to support the work of the Kim Monson Show and grow your business, contact Kim at her website, kimmonson.com. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com.
Welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Be sure and check out our website. That is Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. I'm thinking about Christmas. Hanukkah's right around the corner, and gift ideas. And a great gift to give to another family member would be a family portrait from Jansen Photography. And these family portraits of children, they are keepsakes forever. And when you get these done, you really want to have the professional do that, and that's Glenn Jansen with Jansen Photography. He totally understands lighting. And so to reach out to them, talk to Mary Jansen by reaching out to them at jansenphotography.com. That's JANSSEN photography.com. Trent Loos, I'm going to change gears here just a little bit. And that is another headline. This came from, where are we at? And it was regarding our elk herds. And I had mentioned this in the first segment. But what we're seeing is, to talk about nature, we're going to see our public lands fewer and fewer opportunities for people to access them. And this was from the Aspen Daily News. And it says, as more recreationists are drawn to Colorado public lands, wildlife officials, and I would say that out of like these 80,000 acolytes, they go out and they get involved in these different bureaucracies. And certainly in our different offices, that can happen. So wildlife officials have noted changing patterns in elk herds' health, population numbers, and habitat. It says Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials are considering several changes aimed at managing both the elk population and complaints of hunter overcrowding. In presentations to Garfield and Eagle County commissioners, state wildlife biologist Julie Mao, her last name spelled M-A-O, just found that interesting, said elk herds in northwestern Colorado face a host of challenges, including drought and climate change, energy development, residential development, and recreation. Nowhere do I hear anything being said about the wolf reintroduction in northwestern Colorado. What's your thoughts on this, Trent Loos?
You pretty much summarized it. I mean, it's not climate change. It's not the oil and gas industry. It's not the hunters. It reintroduced the wolf. The wolf is a predator to these animals. It's completely disrupted the ecosystem as it once was there. So yeah, it's man-made correctly, but it's not man-made through climate change. It's man-made through not understanding what we've accomplished. See, this is the same exact story as electricity. We were so comfortable with turning the lights on and they come on. How about a hot shower? How about storing food? How do you store food without electricity? But all of those things have been such a way of our life for so long that people don't even realize what it can be like without electricity. Well, the same exact thing has taken place with the public lands in Colorado and all throughout the West. The hunting has been good. We've been able to have multiple use. We see, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, there's an area around Moab, Utah, where many people, including our family members, go to this region and enjoy the multiple use of the public lands, and they're starting to eliminate. You cannot have any combustion engine in that part of the public lands around Moab, Utah. That's just a sign of what is to come. In fact, there's a portion of Alaska that is owned by the federal government that people have flocked to for the purposes of hunting for as long as anybody's been alive, and they shut them down last year. We've always said that we want these public lands, which, by the way, is 1 in 3 acres in the United States, 647 million acres. It's not just a little bitty patch. We're talking about 1 in 3 acres, a third of the continental United States. that's owned by the taxpayers, and now the taxpayers are not available to access it.
Well, and I reported a story yesterday from in the Gunnison area. It looks like that they're going to try to limit human access to a recreation area there for several months because they said the people riding bicycles and I guess also riding motorbikes is affecting the sage grouse there and their mating habits. Honest to Pete, as we look at nature is adaptable. And so to shut off these public lands to human beings under the guise of protecting nature and these different animal populations, I think, again, flies in the face of science because we have had an adaptable world. Nature, animals can adapt, and we can coexist. But my guys, those people that used to talk about coexisting, which what that meant is that only that they could have their ideas out there, not the rest of us. But they don't believe that we can coexist with our earth, and we have done so successfully. But that also means, you and I both love the land. And we want to be good stewards of the land, but we also love human beings, and we want to make sure that human beings can thrive and flourish. And the two things do not have to be mutually exclusive. Both things can happen at the same time, Trent Loos.
I found a statistic last night that I think summarizes what you just said and puts it into a quantitative number. We domesticated livestock 10,000 years ago. And rumens, who I'm just completely a zealot and a fan of rumens, and don't think people understand how an animal with 4 stomachs that's able to consume cellulose material that human beings cannot consume, upcycle that into the most nutrient-dense food substance on the planet. That's what a rumen does. And they're not appreciated or understood. Well, I found a statistic that says since we domesticated animals, particularly rumens, there's 200 living species of rumens on Earth, all falling into 6 families. Deer and elk would be the served species within that. We have increased energy output by 250%. Now, that's energy that's going into fueling human lives, or it could quite possibly fuel their own. It could be the milk that they're giving to the offspring that they produce. But just think about that. We've actually used fewer resources and increased the energy output by 250%. And at the fundamental level, Kim, that's what we're all doing, is that we as human beings are trying to find a way to increase our energy output with fewer resources put in. Ruminant animals, 10,000 years under human management, have increased energy output through the milk by 250%. That says the whole story if you truly understand the attack that's taking place. And I just want to say one other thing. For years, 24 years in my media fight, there's not been one thing that I've come back to more than how the men and the women who manage the federal land, that being the ranchers and the farmers, the miners, the timber guys, they've been chased out of this area, and many people championed that. Many people said, good, I want to go out there with my four-wheeler, and I want to ride, and I don't want to worry about those cows and all these other things. This is the divide and conquer tactic that's being implemented at every turn. We didn't support the federal lands rancher who was being chased off the land unjustly. And we knew that it was just a stepping stone to chasing everybody off the land. We cannot continue to fall prey to these divide and conquer tactics that are implemented at every branch of government.
Well, and as we look at this, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure this out, is that these powers that be are wanting to push human beings in on top of each other in these little tiny apartment buildings. I don't know if you're going to be out here soon for the National Western, and you will not believe
I am going to be in a little tiny apartment building too the entire time I'm there.
And you're not going to like it either, are you?
I know I'm not going to like it. I want to go roam the range.
But just think about, you're just doing that because you're coming in from the National Western. Think about if that was your life 365 days a year. The powers that be, they want to create a workforce. Instead of it, and this is the other thing that gets me just crazy regarding education. And I saw this when I was on city council, that you would see these PBIs come in and they would say, we need to be educating the workforce for these businesses that are coming into our communities. I'm like, wait a minute. People should be able to learn all these things, read, write, do arithmetic, be able to critically think, have history, so that they can go after their hopes and dreams. We're not trying to create little minions to be just little worker bees that go to work all day, then go back to a little apartment and ride around on a train if they want to get someplace. If you're lucky, you could ride around on a train or a bus, but maybe just keep you within 15 minutes of where you could go in your whole life. Oh my gosh, I used to think this is not going to happen. This is what they want. This is what they are pushing. And again, if people want to live in a little apartment, and they should have the freedom to do so, but we're seeing public policy that is pushing these apartment buildings and using tax money to subsidize them, and then making it very difficult to access other land to build single-family homes where people can have families and hopes and dreams. And so, again, I'm not opposed to people making their own choices. What I'm opposed to is this public policy that is being pushed, and you can see that, hey, you send 80,000 people to Dubai and have them there for a week, and you indoctrinate them and send them out then into the world and put money behind them. We get to where we are right now, but I think people, what you're doing, what I'm doing is so important to wake people up to what is happening here, and that's why we have these conversations, Trent.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think it wasn't today the 13th Amendment officially became ratified, abolishing slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And what you just described and what we continue to live under is slavery. I mean, I have a dear friend, and I know, Kim, that sorry for the loss of your father this week. I have a dear friend whose wife has been in the hospital, and he's livid. He's calling me saying, Trent, we're not employing local people in hospitals anymore. We're employing immigrants, and they are keeping them at slave wages. They barely can work. In fact, one nurse, and I would love to just go do a deep dive in this, but obviously I can't because this will make these people vulnerable. But this lady could not afford. She's married, and her husband, they have one child, and they could not afford with what they get paid between the two of them to hire daycare. Otherwise, they had no point in working. So one works during the day, one works during the night. That's the struggles of many families. But they're getting preferential treatment over the individuals who are from the area that have worked at this hospital forever, because they know they can bring them in and keep them at slave labor wages. This is not what we've been fighting for in freedom in the United States. We're fighting for an opportunity to have a better way and create an opportunity for our kids, whether you're an immigrant coming to be a part of a legal system or you've raised your family here and you've been here for 6-7 generations. But here's the question, Kim. How long are we going to accept it? I mean, at the end of the day, you and I can come on here and we can identify the problems, but we have to spend as much time talking about the solutions. And the solutions are pretty simple. People need to engage, to stop being complacent, sitting back and saying, oh, that's just horrible. That's just not the way it should be. What are you doing about it? That's what I ask myself every day, which is why I was at a county commissioners meeting yesterday in Antelope County, Nebraska, trying to be a part of the system and part of the solution.
Well, and there are success stories out there, and we'll talk about some of those. I also, I had texted you regarding something regarding about solar and wind and land. And so I want to get to that before I forget. Otherwise, we'll be done with this hour and we'll be into next week as well. I'm talking with Trent Loos. He is a 6th-generation farmer and rancher, and I'm giving you some great ideas for Christmas, Hanukkah gifts. One of those is for your loved one who has served our country, to buy a brick to honor their military service on one of the pathways that will be at the Marine Memorial out at 6th and Colfax. They are raising the money for the remodel, and it is just a lovely gift. And as Trent mentioned, my father passed on this last week, and he was a veteran, served in the United States Air Force, and I had purchased a brick for him and had gotten this beautiful certificate that I gave to him. It was one of the best gifts I'd ever given to him, and I'm so glad that I did that before he had passed on. So for more information, go to usmcmemorialfoundation.org. That is usmcmemorialfoundation.org, and we get to do this because of my sponsors, and one of those is Bosun Law.
Bosun Law fights for clients who've been injured or family members who have lost a loved one due to the careless, reckless, or wrongful conduct of others. Whether injured in a car accident, suffered an injury due to a product or bad pharmaceutical drug, or need help fighting for medical care and benefits following an accident at work, don't go it alone and uninformed. Bosun Law is the law firm you need in your corner. Time is of the essence with any personal injury claim. Call 303-999-9999 to schedule your complimentary consultation. That number again is 303-999-9999. Call now.
Focused and wise marketing is essential for your success, especially during tough economic times. If you love the Kim Monson Show, strive for excellence and understand the importance of engaging in the battle of ideas that is raging in America, then talk with Kim about partnership, sponsorship opportunities. Email Kim at kimmonson.com. Kim focuses on creating relationships with individuals and businesses that are tops in their fields. So they are the trusted experts listeners turn to when looking for products or services. Kim personally endorses each of her sponsors. Again, reach out to Kim at kimmonson.com.
Franktown Firearms staff and customers alike are concerned with your safety and ability to shoot well, and that comes from the sense of community that they foster at their shop. The staff doesn't work on commissions from sales, so there won't be any pressure to buy what you don't need. They host events like Ladies' Night every first Friday and a Tactical Fun Night every third Friday because they value their community and they understand that selling the most expensive product doesn't help you learn to shoot. Your money goes further at Franktown because they'd rather you to be self-sufficient with what you already own and be proficient in using it. If you're looking for a range and shop that can take you to the next level in your self-defense training, learn how to shoot in realistic scenarios from instructors who have been there, done that. Then look no further than Franktown Firearms. Go to klzradio.com/Franktown. Franktown Firearms, where friends are made.
Welcome back to the Kim Monson Show. Check out our website. That's Kim Monson, MONSON.com. Sign up for our weekly email newsletter. You can email me at kim@kimmonson.com as well. Thank you to all of you who support us. We're an independent voice, and we search for truth and clarity by looking at these issues through the lens of freedom versus force, force versus freedom. If something's a good idea, you should not have to force people to do it. And limited government, that is one of the things that we really need to be working on. Government's way out of control. Did want to mention another gift idea, and that is the Medal of Honor book.
We inherited this business from our father.
Who got it from his father.
We needed an emergency preparedness plan in case of fire, cyber attack,
or anything.
So we went to ready.gov and got free checklists, templates, and more to be prepared. Thanks to ready.gov, we worry less about keeping Rizzo and Sons in business.
Only it should be Rizzo and Grandsons.
And granddaughter.
Right.
Go to ready.gov for details on creating an emergency preparedness plan. Becoming a success is hard work. Protecting it isn't. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Ad Council, and this station.
I never get the flu.
My kids don't need more shots.
I don't have time.
We're all healthy.
My asthma's under control.
I'm pregnant.
I've had the flu. It's not a big deal.
My kids are too old for flu.
The media is exaggerating.
I can fight it naturally.
No matter how you build your excuses, the flu can blow your house down. Keep your foundation strong. Vaccinate. Learn more at flu.gov.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
7,000 high school students drop out every school day. If you stack their desks one atop the other,
It's a pile more than 17,000 feet high. That's 12 Empire State Buildings. But what's truly scary is that another stack is going up tomorrow. We can keep students in school. Visit boostup.org and take the first step. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Okay, Trent Loos, sorry about that. I am broadcasting remotely, and I lost my connection for just a moment. So my question that I had to you, that I was positing to you, was as I look at all these subsidies for wind and solar fields, certainly that is affecting trying to shut down our oil and gas industry. But also, what about taking land out of production? It is warehousing land. Is this not part of that whole 30 by 30 control and controlling our food sources? What do you think?
Absolutely, 100%. In fact, that was my message yesterday to Antelope County Commissioners. I walked through what I have done since December 27, 2021, when Joe Biden signed Executive Order 14008. And people don't, which included the 30 by 30 provision that you're talking about, Section 216. But and to be clear, that language says that by 2030 we will return land and water to its natural state. Well, in its natural state, there's no irrigation. In its natural state, there's none of the improvements that we have made to this land since Lewis and Clark first found it, and they discovered it in a way of speaking. And the truth of the matter is, it's 100% about the other 55 pages of this executive order that doesn't seem to get any attention. I don't hear anybody else talking about what was in 30 by 30 initiative, and that was to end the use of oil and gas, period. That changes our lives in ways that people just don't seem to be grasping yet today. And that whole document, I wish people would take the time to read it. You can find it very easy. Just go to your favorite search engine and search EO 14008 and read those 57 pages, and you'll be like, oh, my goodness, this is what we're doing. We're eliminating so many avenues of improving our lives through food and fuel. That's
food, fuel. And these are the things that power our prosperity. Let us make our choices about our lives to live in liberty. We've got Wade on the line. Wade, what is on your radar?
I would thank you for taking my call, by the way. Kim, good morning. And
Great to have you.
I find it hard to understand that you do not understand that human-caused climate change is not real, and I would like to talk about that.
Well, and so, speak to that, Wade.
Yeah, and by the way, your friend there, I'm just looking up what he mentioned, that whatever order,
the executive order 14008,
tackling the climate crisis, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm an actual scientist. And so tell me, you don't think, yes, I'm familiar with the carbon cycle. Yes, I've studied it. You don't think that human-caused climate change is real. Is that correct?
I believe that Earth is the best physical shape it's been in since we started inhabiting it. Yes.
And by what metric? Why?
I'm talking about the water, the air, the ability, the soil. Everything comes back to the top 6 inches of soil, and our soil has never been healthier. We're trying to diminish that by eliminating sulfur oxide from the atmosphere, which is now forcing farmers and ranchers to add 15 to 17 pounds of sulfur to their fertilizer mixes, which they never did in their life until the EPA banned sulfur from diesel engines in 2006. But if you just look at what we have in terms of soil health and air and quality of life, it's never been better. There is no man-induced climate change.
The sulfur Yes. Okay. That I understand, and I'm kind of with you. I do support. I come from a family of farmers, but you do realize since the Industrial Revolution that CO2 has gone up from roughly a little below 300 parts per million to 400. I think we're at 430, 440 parts per million. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, right?
So let me jump in here. Wade. If you would, and really highly recommend that you take a look at our movie, A Climate Conversation, because we really address that. And if you certainly are looking at on a short period in history, there is a blip, and you are correct on that, Wade. But if you actually go out and look at
it's not a blip. No.
Well, actually, it is. If you look at history, the history of CO2 for a much longer period of time, it is a bit of a blip. And actually, the world has had more carbon dioxide in the past. I mean, right here in Colorado, we at one point in time was a tropical forest. So I want to continue the conversation. Wade, we only have about a minute left.
60,000.
Go ahead. What's that?
Okay, that was 60,000 years ago. Okay, this is over the last 150 years since the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so if I don't know if you've ever studied calculus. I mean, it's pretty simple, but you need to look at the derivative. It's increased faster than ever predicted.
I think that we'll continue to have a conversation regarding that because, again, you can't just take a look at 150 years and try to change the human prosperity and thriving. But Wade, I want to continue to have the conversation. I appreciate you calling in. Trent will be on next Wednesday, and so maybe we can have a date that you can call in next week as well. So Wade, thank you. And Trent, we've got about 30 seconds. Again, I appreciate Wade calling in. Your thoughts?
I do. This is the type of discussion we need more often. Just want to remind people that they keep the CO2 levels in a greenhouse at 600 parts per million because that is better for plant growth than 430 parts per million where the atmosphere is. Humans improve the planet, not the other way around. Thank you, Kim.
Oh, thank you, Trent Loos, sixth-generation farmer and rancher, and Wade, scientist. Thank you so much for calling in as well. And I would love to have you watch A Climate Conversation and let us know what you think about that next week when Trent is on again next Wednesday. So, again, thank you so much. Our quote for the end of the show is from Thomas Aquinas. He said, "The things that we love tell us what we are." So, my friends, today be grateful, read great books, think good thoughts, listen to beautiful music, communicate and listen well, live honestly and authentically, strive for high ideals, and like Superman, stand for truth, justice, and the American way. My friends, you are not alone. God bless you. God bless America. And just have a great day.
Through the mountains climbing, twisting, turning further from my home. Young, like a new moon rising, fierce through the rain and lightning, wandering out into this great unknown. And I don't want no one to cry, but tell them if I don't survive, I was born free. I was born free. I was born free.
The views and opinions expressed on KLZ 560 are those of the speaker, commentators, hosts, their guests, and callers. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Crawford Broadcasting or KLZ management, employees, associates, or advertisers. KLZ 560 is a Crawford Broadcasting God and Country station.